We'll continue Kaiju number 8 story with chapter 127 to 128. Let's jump right in. Hikaru shouted to Kafka that everything now rested on him. So when the Daikaiju's core was exposed after it was struck, Kafka prepared himself and grew serious, saying that it was time. He called upon the souls of the fallen samurai to let his fist carry all their hatred. And as he said this, they gathered like a concentrated energy glove. Unfortunately, the Daikaiju was quickly regenerating its body, which alarmed Kurusu when he saw it happening. Just as he was about to say they wouldn't make it in time, Kafka told himself that it would be okay. As his attack continued charging, he said he just needed to put everything into this one blow. His body began to crackle, and shards of ice suddenly shattered around the monster. Then he asked a specific person, calling him partner, if what he said was right. A familiar device then wrapped around the Daikaiju's body and effortlessly froze it entirely, halting its regeneration. Everyone in the control room, along with their allies on the battlefield, was in complete shock at what had just happened. Standing on a collapsed building, Reno finally arrived and immediately assisted. After unleashing his ice attack, Reno shouted to Kafka to finish the fight. In one swift motion, Kafka released all the samurai's pent-up hatred and his burning resolve into the blow. And as his fist made contact with the core's barrier, we returned to his inner thoughts where he began speaking to his younger self, Kid Kafka. He remarked that this wasn't exactly the future they had imagined, which caught Kid Kafka's attention. He recalled the bet he once made with Mina when they were kids about seeing who would become the cooler troop member between them, and said that if he could end it all here in one clean strike, wouldn't that be incredibly cool? Kid Kafka looked at him and, while cracking his flimsy knuckles, excitedly agreed. Filled with drive, Kid Kafka hyped him up, shouting that they should break straight through. Kid Kafka then fearlessly charged forward, and as he did, he passed through every stage of his life leading up to this moment, with each version of himself showing unwavering determination and the urge to defeat the Daikaiju. In the outside world, Kafka didn't expect that the monster would suddenly deploy Number 9's upgraded body to stop him from punching its core. However, just as the Daikaiju's fist neared him, Kafka's eyes sparked with energy, and without hesitation, he unleashed all the power stored in his fist, which easily shattered the core of this extraordinary monster. The body of Number 9 gradually began to disintegrate, and the expressions on the faces of his comrades and everyone watching revealed their anticipation, wondering if this was truly the downfall of the colossal Daikaiju. As the Kaiju's body also began to vanish and break apart, it let out a deafening screech, showing us that this living nightmare was being destroyed by the force of pure will to live. The Daikaiju let out a loud roar from Kafka's extraordinary punch to its core, and Kurusu immediately shouted in the control room that it was a critical hit and the core had taken severe damage. That moment drew the attention of everyone fighting alongside Kafka, the people in the control room, and even those watching from the evacuation areas. They all simultaneously bit down in anticipation. The massive monster slowly began to lose consciousness, its tentacles collapsing one by one onto the ground, causing destruction to the buildings surrounding it. Inside the control room, Okanaji momentarily paused when she saw the live readings of the battle, and though it took a second for her to process, she found it hard to believe that they were no longer detecting any vital signs coming from the Daikaiju. Eventually, she confirmed that their target had been destroyed. The other assistants in the control room looked at each other as they slowly absorbed what had just happened, then suddenly burst into celebration, cheering with joy. Everyone who had witnessed this moment rejoiced and expressed their relief in their own ways, overjoyed to know that their enemy had finally been defeated. One of the most notable reactions came from the very first Kid Kafka had saved from a kaiju in the past. The girl gleefully told her mother that Kafka had really beat that monster. Okanaji relayed to those on the battlefield that the readings from the resurrected kaiju are now disappearing. Mina let out a sigh of relief as she removed her headgear. Kafka then caught her attention when she saw his body through her interface, lying seemingly unconscious on the corpse of the Daikaiju. She immediately shouted out in concern upon seeing him like that, which also alerted Kurusu and Reno to his condition. Back to Kafka's side, while lying motionless. He said he could feel the grudge spirits fading now that they had fulfilled their goal. He added that he too was beginning to vanish, since he had merged with them. As he watched himself slowly disappear, he pointed out that he was ready to face the consequences. Then, as he returned to his mind world, where he was with Kid Kafka, he added that if he claimed he had no regrets, he'd be lying. The two looked at each other, and Kid Kafka gave him an encouraging smile, while he reflected that even so, he had done everything he could. He said that thanks to the grudge spirits, he had managed to keep his promise to stand beside Mina in the fight against the kaiju. He then began to recall all the comrades who had joined him in his journey through life, starting from Mina, Reno, Hikaru, Hashina, Narumi, Eharu, Haruchi, Aoi, the Defense Force, and the team back at Monster Sweeper Inc., and wholeheartedly thanked each and every one of them for their help. As his body gradually disappeared, he closed his eyes peacefully and left the rest to his friends. However, the spirit of Izao suddenly appeared before him, placed a firm hand on his shoulder, and stopped him from fading away, saying he wouldn't let that happen. Kafka froze in shock, and after realizing what was happening, he backed away from Izao out of fear and surprise at his sudden appearance. Just as he was struggling to ask why he was inside his mind, countless spirits began to fly around him, capturing his attention. He noticed that they were the spirits of the Daikaiju from the Merki period and the Grudge Samurai that had merged with him, and they too were vanishing. This made him wonder if they had finally been set free. Izao answered his question and said he had come there to thank him. The two stared at each other as they both slowly began to fade, and Izao pointed out that he was doing this for the last time. Kafka was stunned by his gratitude and simply lowered his head, disappointed in himself. He apologized to Izao and explained that Kaiju No. 9 had turned out to be even tougher than he imagined, and because of that, Tokyo was now a complete mess. Izao reassured him not to worry, saying what happened was no different than what they faced after Kaiju No. 6. He explained that humanity had already faced countless major cataclysms thought to be hopeless. But each time, they strived, learned, refined, and forged an even stronger world. Kafka was struck by the weight of that realization, and as Izao turned to look behind him, he said that they would overcome this disaster as well. While he was saying this, an image formed in their minds, a vision of their city after the massive battle against the Daikaiju, and he emphasized that they would rebuild it once more. Kafka carefully observed what Izao was showing him, when Izao suddenly declared that he had a mission to give him, immediately capturing his full attention. Izao pointed out that this was where the real battle truly begins. Then, with serious eyes, he assigned him the mission of helping rebuild and continuing to face the new threats ahead, addressing him as Officer Hibino. Kafka looked surprised upon feeling the trust Izao was placing in him, but then quickly remembered what had happened to his heart, which caused him to feel irritated with himself. He turned away from Izao, apologized, and explained that he had turned his heart into a kaiju core. But as he continued to explain that he could no longer remain in this world, Izao cut him off and ordered him to face him. When he did, he suddenly saw Izao already charging at him. He tried to stop him, but it was too late. Izao's punch had already landed hard on his chest, as if it had pierced right through him. Kafka coughed from the impact and was thrown back. Izao then told him to take what he had given, saying he no longer needed it, and reminded him to look after his friends, making special mention of Kikaru. After that, Izao disappeared and Kafka instinctively shut his eyes again, when suddenly, a heartbeat echoed from deep within him. In the outside world, the body of the Daikaiju began to break down, prompting Kurusu to immediately report it to the Defense Force officers and instruct them to evacuate the area. While this was happening, Kafka's body could be seen slowly sliding toward the edge of the Daikaiju's remains. Hikaru spotted him and shouted his name out of concern. Kafka's body began to fall, but fortunately, someone moved quickly enough to catch him. Hikaru turned to look at the person responsible, and as the smoke cleared, Reno emerged holding Kafka in his arms. Even Mina's eyes widened in shock upon seeing it, while Reno immediately spoke to Kafka's unconscious body, asking if he was all right. They tried to wake him up, but stopped shouting when Kafka's kaiju body began to disintegrate, slowly revealing his human face beneath.